deep in the cold darkness between Mars and Jupiter, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, alien eyes watched Earth with growing worry. The massive observation station had been there for over 3,000 years, recording everything that happened. On the blue planet below, Kethver moved his 4 long arms across the control panels with practiced ease. His purple skin glowed softly in the dim light as he studied the latest reports from Earth. The Zephyrian scientist had been watching the humans for most of his long life, and what he saw terrified him more each day. On his main screen, images flashed by from all over Earth. Humans fighting wars, humans climbing mountains that could kill them, humans diving into deep oceans full of deadly creatures, humans living in deserts, frozen lands, and places where the very air could poison other species, and somehow they were thriving. Another volcanic eruption, Kethver said to his assistant, a young female named Yithel. Look how they respond. On the screen, humans were running toward the danger, not away from it. They wore special suits and carried strange tools. They were studying the volcano while it was still active, taking samples from lava that would melt. Most known metals. They must be insane, Yithal whispered, her 3 eyes wide with shock. That is what we thought at first, Kethver replied. But they are not insane. They are adapted. This planet has been trying to kill them for millions of years, and they have learned to fight back. Far below them, Commander Lisa Murphy guided her fighter ship through the asteroid belt around Mars. She did not know that alien sensors were tracking her every movement. Lisa was leading a training mission for new pilots, teaching them how to fly in the dangerous space around the red planet. Stay sharp. Lisa spoke into her radio to the 5 pilots following her. These rocks can crush your ship if you are not careful. To Lisa, this was normal training. To the aliens watching, it was proof of how dangerous humans could be. The asteroids moved fast and hit hard. One mistake would mean death. But the human pilots flew between them like they were playing a game. On the observation station, Kethver recorded everything. It watched humans do impossible things for decades. It survived ice ages that should have frozen them all to death. They had lived through asteroid impacts that wiped out most life on their planet. They had even survived their own nuclear weapons. Sir Yithel said, pointing to another screen. The mining ship is back. Captain Jake Harrison was returning from the outer asteroid belt with a full load of rare metals. His ship was old and small, but he had been mining the dangerous rocks for 15 years. Jake did not know that every trip he made was being recorded by aliens who could not understand. How he survived? The asteroid belt was full of deadly radiation, spinning rocks, and metal fragments that could punch through ship hulls. Most civilized species would never think of going there. But humans like Jake went there every day to dig up the materials their growing colonies needed. Look at his route, Kethver told his assistant. He flies through the most dangerous areas because the best metals are there. He knows the risks, but he does it anyway. Meanwhile, on a massive ship floating in deep space, far from any star, Admiral Vextel studied the same reports that troubled Kethver. The Altarian was tall and graceful, with skin that changed colors based on his mood. Right now it was dark blue with worry. The Galactic Confederation had been peaceful for over 50,000 years. The 847 member species all came from safe worlds where the biggest danger might be a storm or an earthquake. They had built their civilization on cooperation and avoiding conflict. War was something they read about in historical files, not something they actually experienced. But now, they faced a problem they had never dealt with before. The humans were getting stronger and smarter very quickly. They had discovered faster than light. Travel only 50 years after splitting the atom. They were building weapons that could destroy planets. And worst of all, they seemed to enjoy challenges that would kill most other species. Admiral, said his aide, a young Altarian named Morven. The Science Council wants to know when we should make contact. Vextel stared at the holographic display showing Earth. It looked beautiful from space, with blue oceans and white clouds. But the Science Council had classified it as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered. Not yet, Vextel said finally, "We need more information." The Admiral had read the reports about Earth many times. The planet was covered in active volcanoes, deadly storms, poisonous creatures, and extreme weather. The gravity was twice as strong as most civilized worlds. Yet, the atmosphere contained oxygen, which was so reactive it could cause fires and explosions. Even the water on Earth was dangerous, with creatures that could eat beings as large as humans. But the humans had not just survived on this nightmare world, they had conquered it. They had built cities in places where other species would die in hours. They had tamed animals that were natural killing machines. They had even learned to use the planet's dangerous forces to create energy and tools. Sir Morval said quietly, "Some of the council members think we should destroy them before they leave their solar system." Vextel's skin turned deep purple with shock. The Confederation had never destroyed another species. It went against everything they believed in. But he understood their fear. The humans were not evil. Reports showed they could be kind and caring to their own species, and even to their animals. But they were also incredibly violent when threatened. They had weapons that could wipe out entire armies. They'd survived by being better at fighting than anything else on their world. Back on the observation station, Kethra was watching. New footage from Earth's history files. The humans had recorded their own wars and disasters, and the aliens had learned to access these records. "Look at this," he told Ythel, showing her images from something the humans called World War II. They fought a war that covered their entire planet. Millions died, and when it was over, they rebuilt everything and made their technology even better. The footage showed human cities burning, but also humans running into the fire to save others. It showed human soldiers fighting desperate battles, but also human doctors treating wounded enemies. It showed destruction beyond imagination, but also recovery that seemed impossible. "How do they do it?" Ythel asked. "How do they survive so much pain and loss?" "I think," Kethfer said slowly, "that pain and loss made them stronger. Their world taught them that life is precious because it can end so quickly, so they fight harder to protect it." In another part of the solar system, Dr. Susan Blake was working late at Luna Station, humanity's research base on the moon. She was studying radiation patterns from deep space, looking for signs of other civilizations. Susan had no idea that other civilizations had been studying her people for thousands of years. As she worked, Susan dreamed of the day humans would meet aliens and join a galactic community. She imagined sharing knowledge and exploring the universe together. She never suspected that those aliens were watching her right now, trying to decide if humans were too dangerous to let loose among the stars. The observation station's computers were full of data about human achievements. Humans who climbed mountains just to see what was on top. Humans who dove to the bottom of oceans just to explore. Humans who flew to their own moon just to prove they could do it. Humans who built machines to harness the power of their sun and the fury of their storms. Each achievement impressed the aliens, but also scared them. Humans seemed to have no limits. They would try anything, go anywhere, and fight any battle if they thought it was important. As the alien watchers continued their endless surveillance, one thing became clear. The humans were no longer content to stay on their dangerous world. They were looking to the stars with the same determination that had helped them survive everything their planet could throw at them. Soon, the Watchers knew they would have to decide. Welcome the Deathworlders into galactic civilization, or find a way to stop them before they changed the universe forever. 3 months after Captain Jake Harrison found strange alien technology in the asteroid belt, Dr. Susan Blake was working through another sleepless night at Luna Station. She had been studying the mysterious signals that started appearing right after Jake's discovery. The patterns were too complex to be natural, but too organized to be random noise. Suzanne rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the data again. The signals came in bursts every 6 hours, always from the same direction in space. She had been trying to decode them for weeks, but nothing made sense. Then, at 3 in the morning, something clicked. "It's a language," she whispered to herself. The patterns were not random. They followed rules, just like human languages. Some symbols appeared more often than others. Some combinations never appeared together. Suzanne felt her heart racing as she realized what this meant. We are not alone. By morning, Susan had decoded enough of the message to understand its basic meaning. The words were simple and direct. Greetings, inhabitants of the Sol-3 system. You have been observed. We wish to communicate. Susan's hands shook as she sent her report to Earth. Within hours, every major government and space agency was involved. The message was real. Someone out there had been watching Earth, and now they wanted to talk. On the Confederation flagship, Eternal Harmony, Admiral Vextel received the report that the humans had decoded their message. His skin shifted to a worried green color as he read the details. They broke our code in less than 4 months, he told his communication officer. A graceful Celestian named Morthan. Our best linguist said it would take them at least 2 years. Morthan's silvery features showed concern. The Celestians were known throughout the galaxy for their intelligence and diplomatic skills.
Oh.
But even they had never seen such rapid pattern recognition. Admiral, the First Contact Committee is requesting permission to begin direct communication, Morthan said. Vextel nodded slowly. There was no going back now. The humans knew they existed, and the Confederation's laws required them to make proper contact once a species reached this level of awareness. Back on Luna Station, Susan was no longer alone. Dr. Rachel Kim, Earth's best xenolinguist, had arrived. From Seoul, with a team of specialists, Colonel Frank Martinez represented the military, while Ambassador Helen Carter was there to handle any diplomatic issues. The next message is coming through, Susan announced. This time, the alien message was longer and more detailed. It included mathematical concepts, basic chemistry, and what appeared to be star maps. But most importantly, it included an invitation. Want to meet us? Rachel said, her voice full of excitement and fear. They're offering to build a meeting place at the Jupiter-Lagrange point. Colonel Martinez frowned. That's awfully convenient. Right in our solar system, where they can control everything. Frank, Ambassador Carter said gently, we have to start somewhere. This is the most important moment in human history. While the humans debated their response, construction ships from the Confederation were already moving toward the Jupiter-Sun L4 point. The aliens worked with technology that seemed like magic to human observers. Materials appeared from nowhere, shaped themselves into complex structures, and joined together without any visible tools or workers. Captain Amy Foster watched the construction from her exploration vessel, the UES Horizon. She had been sent to observe and report back to Earth Command. What she saw amazed and worried her. Command, this is Foster, she spoke into her radio. The alien station is enormous. It's already the size of a small city, and they started building it only 3 days ago. On Earth, President Victoria Chang called an emergency meeting of the Global Council. Representatives from every nation gathered in Geneva to decide how humanity should respond to first contact. We need to be careful, said the Chinese representative. These aliens have technology far beyond ours. If they wanted to harm us, we could not stop them. But they're asking to meet us, replied the American Secretary of State. That suggests they want peaceful contact. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the decision was obvious. Humanity had to meet with the aliens. The alternative was to hide in fear, and humans had never been good at that. A week later, Representative Alex Turner led a small delegation toward the completed alien station. Alex had been chosen because of his experience in difficult negotiations, and his calm personality. With him were Dr. Rachel Kim to handle translation, and Colonel Frank Martinez to assess any military aspects of the meeting. The alien station was beautiful beyond description. It looked like a crystal flower, floating in space, with graceful curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. Human technology looked crude and primitive in comparison. Welcome, beings of Sol-3, came the translated message as their shuttle approached the docking bay. We are honored by your presence. The 3 humans stepped out of their shuttle into an environment that took their breath away. The station's interior was like a vast garden, with flowing water, soft light, and air that smelled like flowers. Gravity was perfectly comfortable, and the temperature was exactly right for human comfort. They've studied us very carefully, Rachel whispered to Alex. Their hosts appeared a few minutes later, and the humans tried not to stare. The Altarians were tall and graceful, with skin that shifted through different colors as they moved. The Celestians looked almost like living silver, with features that seemed too perfect to be real. The Zephyrians had 4 arms and purple skin that glowed softly. I am Admiral Vextel of the Altarian Republic, their leader said through translation device. This is Morthan of the Celestian Union and Kethfer of the Zephyrian Science Collective. We represent the Galactic Confederation. Alex stepped forward. I am Alex Turner, representing the United Nations of Earth. We are honored to meet you. What followed was the most important conversation in human history, but it was also one of the strangest. The aliens were polite, even friendly, but there was something underneath their words that made the humans uncomfortable. We have been observing your species for some time, Vexel explained. Your development has been ... remarkable. How long have you been watching us? Rachel asked. Approximately 3,000 of your years, Kethver replied. We have detailed records of your civilization's growth. Colonel Martinez leaned forward. Why didn't you make contact sooner? The 3 aliens exchanged glances, and their translator was silent for a long moment. Finally, Morthon spoke. Your species presents unique challenges for first contact protocol. We needed time to understand your nature. What do you mean by that? Alex asked. Another pause, and Vextel said carefully, your homeworld is classified as what we call a death world. Very few species evolve on planets as dangerous as yours. This has shaped your development in ways that are concerning to many of our member species. The humans looked at each other in confusion. Earth was their home. It seemed normal to them. Dangerous how? Rachel asked. Kethver activated a holographic display that showed images of various planets. Most civilized species evolve on worlds like these, he said, showing peaceful-looking planets with gentle landscapes and calm weather. Your world is like this. The next image made the humans gasp. It showed Earth, but highlighted all the dangerous aspects they took for granted. Active volcanoes, massive storms, deadly animals, poisonous plants, extreme temperatures, and natural disasters. Your planet has been trying to kill everything on it for millions of years, Morthan explained. Most species that evolve on such worlds become either extinct or extremely aggressive. You've survived by becoming both highly adaptable and very dangerous. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Dangerous to whom? To everyone, Vextel said quietly. Your species has capabilities that concern many in the Confederation. You are physically stronger than most of us. You'll heal faster from injuries. You can survive in environments that would kill us quickly. Your capacity for violence is beyond our experience. Colonel Martinez straightened up. We're not violent people. We want peace. We know, Morthan said gently. We have observed your capacity for kindness and cooperation, but we have also observed your wars, your weapons, and your ability to keep fighting even when badly hurt. These traits worry species that have not needed to fight for survival in thousands of years. The meeting continued for several more hours, but the tone had changed. The humans realized that they were not being welcomed into a galactic community. They were being evaluated to see if they were safe enough to be allowed to join. As their shuttle flew back toward Earth, the 3 humans sat in silence, processing what they had learned. They're afraid of us, Rachel finally said. Can you blame them? Frank replied. If I met a species from a world that made professional soldiers out of its civilians, I'd be worried too. Alex stared out at the stars, thinking about humanity's future. They had dreamed of joining a peaceful galactic civilization. Instead, they had discovered that they were the monsters other species had nightmares about. The question now was whether they could prove they were monsters worth trusting. Dr. Nathan Brooks had not slept in 36 hours. The alien database was like nothing he had ever seen before. Information from across the galaxy, collected over thousands of years, was now available to human scientists. Nathan was part of the team trying to understand humanity's place in this vast galactic community. What he found made him sick to his stomach. Rachel, you need to see this. Nathan called to Dr. Rachel Kim, who was working at another computer terminal in the research lab on Luna Station. Rachel walked over and looked at Nathan's screen. The alien database showed a list of worlds organized by danger levels. At the top were peaceful garden worlds, where the biggest threat might be a mild rainstorm. At the bottom were the Deathworlds, planets so hostile that only the most dangerous species could survive there. Earth is number 3, Nathan said quietly. Out of all the inhabited worlds in the galaxy, we live on the 3rd most dangerous planet ever discovered. Rachel stared at the screen in shock. Above Earth were only 2 worlds, one covered in acid oceans with creatures that could dissolve metal, and another where the gravity was so strong that the native species had developed bones like steel and muscles that could crush rocks. What are the other Deathworld species like? Rachel asked. Nathan pulled up more files. Most of them are extinct. They killed themselves in wars or destroyed their planets. Only 12 Deathworld species have ever survived long enough to develop space travel. He showed her images of the other surviving Deathworld species. They were all terrifying in different ways. One species had evolved from pack hunters with teeth like knives. Another had developed the ability to spit acid and had armor like skin. A third had 6 arms and could regenerate lost limbs. And they think we're like them? Rachel whispered. Worse, Nathan replied. Look at this classification. Showed her humanities file in the alien database. Humans were listed as persistence. Predators with advanced tool use, pack hunting behavior, and berserker combat capability. The description went on to explain that humans were one of only 3 species known to enter a fighting trance that allowed them to ignore pain and continue fighting even when badly wounded. Meanwhile, Captain Amy Foster was experiencing the revelation from a different angle. Her exploration ship, the UES Horizon, had been invited to visit a typical Confederation world to observe how peaceful species lived. The world was called Haven, and it was paradise compared to Earth. The gravity was light, making everything feel soft and gentle. The weather was always perfect, with temperatures that never went above or below comfortable levels. The native Havani were small, delicate beings who looked like they might break if touched too hard. Captain Foster, said her guide, a Havani named Sylph. Would you like to see our predators? Amy nodded, expecting to see something at least mildly dangerous. Instead, Sylph led her to a small creature that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a butterfly. It was about the size of Amy's hand and moved very slowly. This is our apex predator, Sylph explained proudly, the gentle hunter. It can chase prey for up to 10 minutes before needing to rest. Amy stared at the tiny creature. On Earth, this thing would be eaten by a house cat within seconds.
What does it hunt?
Small insects and plant seeds, Sylph replied. Sometimes it competes with other gentle hunters for territory, but they usually resolve conflicts by displaying their pretty colors. Amy thought about the bears, lions, sharks, and thousands of other deadly predators that humans shared Earth with. She began to understand why the aliens were so worried about her species back on Luna Station. Ambassador Helen Carter was reading reports from the first cultural exchange sessions. The results were disturbing in ways she had never expected. The alien psychologists had tested human volunteers to understand their mental capabilities. They found that humans scored normally on intelligence tests, but showed unusual patterns in other areas. Every human we tested shows signs of what we would classify as mild combat stress disorder, wrote the lead alien psychologist. They are constantly alert for threats, even in perfectly safe environments. Their heart rates increase when they hear loud noises. They automatically identify potential weapons in any room they enter. Helen realized that what the aliens were describing was just normal human awareness. Humans had evolved to be constantly ready for danger because danger was everywhere on Earth, the report continued. Most concerning is their emotional response to simulated combat scenarios. Instead of fear or avoidance, human subjects show excitement and increased focus. They appear to enjoy challenges that would cause panic in most civilized species. Chief Engineer Ryan Walsh was having his own disturbing discoveries while examining Confederation technology. The aliens had given humans access to some of their basic tools and weapons, expecting them to be impressed by their advanced science. Instead, Ryan was horrified by how weak everything was. Their strongest military ship has hull plating that's thinner than our civilian transports, Ryan told his engineering team. Their most powerful weapon is designed to stun, not kill. And their emergency systems are built assuming that any dangerous situation will end quickly. Ryan pulled up specifications for a typical Confederation warship. It was beautiful and elegant, but it was built for comfort, not survival. The life support systems would fail if the ship lost power for more than a few hours. The weapons could disable an enemy ship, but could not destroy it. Most shocking of all, the ship had no repair systems because the builders never expected it to be damaged in battle. They don't understand war, Ryan said. Real war. They think conflict means arguing loudly and maybe pushing each other. Have no concept of fighting to the death. The full scope of the revelation hit humanity when Dr. Nathan Brooks compiled all the research into a single report. He presented it to Earth's leaders during an emergency video conference that included every major government and space agency. We are not just different from other galactic species, Nathan explained. We are fundamentally incompatible with their way of thinking. They've evolved beyond the need for violence. We have evolved to be masters of violence. Nathan showed them comparative data. The average human was 5 times stronger than the average Confederation citizen. Humans could survive injuries that would kill most aliens instantly.
Human reaction.
Times were faster, human endurance was greater, and human pain tolerance was beyond the aliens' ability to measure. But it gets worse, Nathan continued. They are afraid of us not just because we're physically dangerous, but because we think differently. When they see a problem, they try to negotiate or compromise. When we see a problem, our first instinct is to find a way to defeat it. President Victoria Chang asked the question that everyone was thinking, are they right to be afraid of us? Was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, maybe. We've been peaceful with each other for decades now. But that's because we've had common enemies and challenges to focus on. What happens when we meet alien species we don't like? What happens when we find worlds we want to colonize that belong to someone else? The meeting ended with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Humanity would never be just another member of the Galactic Confederation. They were either going to be the most dangerous allies the peaceful species had ever had, or the most dangerous enemies. On the alien observation station, Kethver was having similar thoughts as he watched the human reaction to their revelation. The humans were not denying their dangerous nature. Instead, they were studying it, analyzing it, and trying to understand it better. They are not ashamed of being deadly, Kethver told his assistant Yithel. They are trying to figure out how to use their deadliness responsibly. Is that good or bad? Yithel asked. I wish I knew, Kethver replied. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of space, other eyes were also watching the first contact between humans and the Confederation. The Wraith Empire had been monitoring Confederation space for years, looking for signs of weakness. The Wraiths were one of the few Deathworld species that had chosen conquest over cooperation. They had built their empire by destroying peaceful species and taking their worlds. They had been planning to invade Confederation space for decades, waiting for the right moment. Now they had heard rumors about new Deathworlders joining the Confederation. The Wraith War leaders were intrigued. Perhaps these humans would make useful slaves or soldiers, or perhaps they would need to be destroyed before they could interfere with Wraith expansion plans. Either way, the Wraiths decided it was time to test the strength of both the Confederation and their new human allies. Back on Earth, Dr. Susan Blake was still working late nights, but now she was monitoring different signals. Deep space sensors had detected movement in the outer regions of Confederation territory. Ships were moving in organized patterns, heading toward peaceful worlds. Someone was coming. And Susan had a feeling that humanity's first real test as galactic citizens was about to begin. The peaceful species of the Confederation had spent thousands of years avoiding conflict and building a civilization based on cooperation and understanding. Now they faced the possibility that their greatest strength, their rejection of violence, might also be their greatest weakness. The emergency signal reached Earth at 3 in the morning, local time. Dr. Susan Blake was the first to receive it, And the desperate tone in the alien transmission made her blood run cold. "Human allies, we need help," the message began. "Unknown. Hostile forces are attacking our outer colonies. Our defense fleets are falling back. Please respond." Ow. Within hours, every major military leader on Earth was in emergency session. General Marcus Stone stood before a room full of admirals, generals, and government officials, studying the tactical data the Confederation had sent. "The attackers call themselves the Wraith Empire," General Stone explained, pointing to a star map on the main screen. They hit 3 colonies in the past week. Each time, the Confederation Defense Fleet retreated after minimal contact. "How minimal?" asked Admiral Patricia Cole. "The Confederation ships turned and ran after the first exchange of fire. They won't even fight back." President Victoria Chang leaned forward in her chair. "What exactly are we dealing with here, General?" Stone pulled up new images on the screen. The Wraith ships were dark and angular, covered in weapons and armor plating. They looked like they were built for one purpose: war. "The Wraiths are from a death world like Earth," Stone continued. "Unlike us, they chose conquest over cooperation. They've been building their empire by destroying peaceful species for over 200 years. And now, they're targeting the Confederation?" the president asked. "It gets worse," Stone replied. "Intelligence suggests this is just a test. They're probing Confederation defenses before launching a full invasion." Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell had been studying the Confederation military for months as part of the cultural exchange program. She stood up to address the room. "Sir, I've been training with their defense forces. They have good technology, but they have no idea how to fight a real war. Their idea of combat tactics is to show up, fire warning shots, and hope the enemy agrees to negotiate." The room was quiet as the implications sank in. The peaceful species that had been afraid of humanity were now begging for help from the very violence they feared. "What are our options?" President Chang asked. General Stone straightened up. "We send a task force to assist. Small enough not to seem threatening to the Confederation, large enough to make a difference against the Wraiths." 3 days later, Commander Jake Peterson was leading a human task force toward the Kepler 442 system, where the latest Wraith attack was taking place. His small fleet consisted of 6 human ships, 3 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and 1 carrier, with a full squadron of fighters. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Confederation Defense Fleet." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was filled with panic. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Yethel of the Confederation Third Fleet. We are under attack by superior forces. We are falling back to minimum safe distance." Jake looked at his tactical display. The Confederation fleet had 27 ships to the Wraith's 8. But the Confederation ships were running away, while the Wraiths chased them like wolves hunting sheep. "Admiral Yethel, this is Commander Peterson. We're moving to engage the hostile forces. Please maintain your current position, Commander. I must advise against direct engagement. These Wraiths are extremely aggressive. They will not respond to diplomatic contact." Jake almost smiled. "Admiral, we're not here to talk to them." As the human ships approached the battle zone, Captain Ashley Thompson prepared her assault team aboard the destroyer U.S. Defiance. Ashley had served in 3 different conflict zones on Earth and had trained in boarding operations since she was 18.
Ashley.
"Listen up," Ashley told her team of 50 Marines. "The Wraiths think they're the toughest thing in space. They've been beating up on peaceful species for 2 centuries. It's time to show them what real Deathworlders can do." The first exchange of fire between humans and Wraiths lasted exactly 43 seconds. The Wraith ships had expected another easy victory against opponents who would flee at the first sign of real fighting. Instead, they found themselves facing enemies who shot back with deadly accuracy and kept advancing no matter what the Wraiths threw at them. "Direct hit on their lead ship," reported Jake's weapons officer. "They're trying to break away." "Negative," Jake replied. "Stay on them. Don't let them escape to report back to their fleet." What followed was the kind of space battle the Confederation had never seen before. Human ships moved with deadly precision, using tactics that had been developed through centuries of warfare. They coordinated their attacks, covered each other's weaknesses, and pressed their advantages without mercy. The Wraiths, for their first time in decades, found themselves fighting an enemy that was not only willing to fight back, but was better at fighting than they were. Captain Ashley Thompson led her boarding party onto the Wraith flagship after her ship had crippled its engines. The fighting inside the enemy ship was brutal and close, but the Wraiths quickly discovered that humans were even more dangerous up close than they were at long range.
Ow.
These aren't like the other species, one wounded Wraith warrior said to his commander as Ashley's team secured the ship's bridge. They fight like us, but better. The Wraith commander, a massive creature with natural armor and claws like knives, studied the humans who had captured his ship. They were smaller than Wraiths and looked fragile without natural weapons or armor. But they moved with the confidence of apex predators and showed no fear, even when facing creatures twice their size. "What world spawned you?" the Wraith commander asked Ashley. "Earth," Ashley replied simply. "And you just made the mistake of threatening our friends." The battle lasted for hours total. When it was over, 3 Wraith ships had been destroyed. 2 had been captured, and the remaining 3 were fleeing toward deep space, broadcasting warnings about the impossible warriors that had appeared to defend the Confederation. Admiral Ethel brought his fleet close to the human ships after the battle. His voice over the radio was filled with awe and confusion. "Commander Peterson, we have never seen anything like what you just did. You attacked an enemy fleet without negotiation. You fought them to destruction or surrender. And you did it with fewer ships than they had." "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "That's generally how we handle people who attack our allies. But the casualties, the destruction. How do you justify such violence?" Jake was quiet for a moment, trying to find words that would make sense to a species that had never needed to fight for survival. "Admiral, sometimes violence is the only thing that stops greater violence. Those Wraiths were going to keep attacking peaceful worlds until someone made them stop. We just made them stop." On the human carrier, Lieutenant Maria Santos was treating wounded Marines in the medical bay. The casualties were light by human standards, but each wounded soldier was receiving care that amazed the alien observers. The Confederation medics watched in shock as humans treated their wounded with advanced techniques that could heal injuries that would be fatal to most species. More importantly, they saw how the unwounded humans immediately volunteered to help, sharing blood, plasma, and even offering to donate organs if needed. They are as devoted to preserving life as they are skilled at taking it, one alien medic reported back to the Confederation Medical Command. The news of the human victory spread through Confederation space faster than light-speed communication. For the first time in thousands of years, someone had not only fought back against aggressive Deathworlders, but had won decisively on the Wraith homeworld. War leader Keshtar was reading the battle reports with growing concern. His scouts had described the humans as just another weak species, like all the others in the Confederation. Instead, they had encountered warriors who fought with a skill and determination that reminded him of the ancient Wraith legends about the First Wars. "How many ships do these humans have?" Keshtar asked his intelligence officer. "Unknown war." "Leader, but our survivors report that they have weapons and tactics we have never seen before." Keshtar studied the star maps showing human space. Earth was a single planet with a few small colonies, far from the main Confederation worlds. But if such a small human force could destroy his raiders so easily, what would happen if the humans decided to bring their full military might to bear? For the first time in his long career, the Wraith war leader felt something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. Back in Confederation space, the peaceful species were dealing with their own shock. The humans had saved them, but they had done it with a level of violence that terrified even as it impressed them. The question now was whether the cure was worse than the disease. The Confederation had asked the Deathworlders for help, and the Deathworlders had delivered. But in doing so, they had shown the galaxy exactly why Deathworld species were so feared. The humans had proven they could protect the Confederation from its enemies. The question that kept alien leaders awake at night was, who would protect the Confederation from the humans? 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, representatives from 847 different species gathered at New Geneva Station for the most important vote in galactic history. The massive space station, built jointly by human and alien engineers, floated peacefully between Mars and Jupiter. Like a symbol of cooperation between two very different kinds of civilizations, President Victoria Chang stood before the Galactic Assembly, looking out at delegates whose forms ranged from the graceful Altarians to the insectoid Zephyrians to dozens of species she still could not pronounce the names of. 6 months ago, many of these beings had been afraid to be in the same star system as humans. Today, they were voting on whether to make humanity the official protectors of galactic peace. "The proposal before us is unprecedented," announced Speaker Velthan, the ancient Celestian who had led the Confederation for over a century. "Never before have we asked a single species to take responsibility for the military defense of all member worlds." The debate had been going on for weeks. Species argued that giving humans such power was too dangerous. Others pointed out that the Wraith Empire was still out there, and only the humans had proven they could fight them effectively. Ambassador Helen Carter sat in the human delegation section, watching the alien politicians argue about her species' future. She had spent months learning alien customs and diplomatic protocols, but nothing had prepared her for the complexity of governing a civilization that spanned hundreds of worlds. "The humans have proven their military capabilities," said Representative Morthon of the Celestian Union. "But can we trust them with the power to decide who lives and who dies across the galaxy?" Admiral Vextel of the Altarian Republic stood to respond. 6 months ago, I shared those concerns. But I have watched how humans conduct themselves in battle. They show mercy to defeated enemies. They protect civilian populations. They follow rules of war that many of us did not even know existed. The vote was closer than anyone expected. In the end, it passed by just 37 votes out of nearly 1,000 cast. Humanity was officially invited to join the Galactic Confederation as its first and only protector species. Commander Ben Phillips was setting up the first joint training facility on Proxima Station when the news came through. Ben had been working with alien military forces for months, trying to teach basic defensive tactics to species that had never needed them before. "Congratulations, Commander," said his assistant, a young Havani named Sylph. "Your species has made history today." Ben looked out at the training grounds where human instructors were patiently teaching Altarian volunteers how to handle basic weapons. The sight still seemed surreal to him. Graceful aliens moved like dancers, even when they were trying to learn combat techniques. "Lieutenant Kim," Ben called to one of his human instructors. "How are they doing, Lieutenant Janet?" Kim shook her head with a mixture of amusement and concern. "Sir, they're trying their best, but they treat weapons training like an art class. They want to make their movements beautiful instead of effective." Ben watched as an Altarian soldier carefully aimed a training rifle at a target, took several deep breaths to center himself spiritually, and then fired a shot that missed by 3 feet. "This is going to take a while," Ben muttered. Meanwhile, Dr. Jennifer Adams was leading the cultural exchange program that was helping both species understand their new relationship. Her office on New Geneva Station had become a meeting place where humans and aliens could learn about each other's ways of thinking. "The most important thing to understand," Jennifer was explaining to a group of alien sociologists, "is that humans do not enjoy violence for its own sake. We have just learned to be very good at it because our world required it." One of the aliens, a delicate Etherian with skin like crystal, raised what might have been a hand. "But your entertainment shows feature so much conflict and fighting. Surely this proves you celebrate violence." Jennifer smiled patiently. She had been getting this question a lot lately. "We tell stories about conflict because conflict teaches us lessons about courage, sacrifice, and protecting others, the heroes. And our stories are not violent because they enjoy it, but because they choose to face danger to protect people who cannot protect themselves." The alien looked confused. "Why would someone choose to face danger for strangers?" "Because," Jennifer replied, "someone has to." The real test of the new relationship came 3 weeks later when long-range sensors detected the largest fleet movement. In galactic history, war leader Keshtar of the Wraith Empire was bringing every ship he could gather to crush the Confederation once and for all. Admiral Karen Ross stood on the bridge of the UEF Defiant, flagship of humanity's largest battle fleet, studying the tactical display that showed over 300 Wraith warships approaching Confederation space. It was the kind of enemy force that would have made human military planners on Earth very nervous. Out here, surrounded by aliens who had never seen real war, it felt like facing down the end of civilization itself. Admiral reported her communications. "Officer, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Confederation worlds. They want to give up before the fighting starts." Karen felt a familiar anger rise in her chest. She had seen this kind of fear before, during Earth's own dark periods when aggressors had counted on people being too afraid to fight back. "Send a message to all Confederation worlds," Karen ordered. "Tell them that as long as the human fleet exists, no one surrenders to bullies." Captain Steve Morrison commanded one of the 50 human ships that faced the massive Wraith Armada at the Battle of Centauri Gate. The odds were 6-1 against the humans, but Steve had studied the Wraith tactics during their previous raids. They were used to enemies that ran away or gave up quickly. They had never faced opponents who got more dangerous the longer a fight continued. "All ships, this is Admiral Ross," came the voice over the fleet communication system. "The Wraiths think they can scare us like they scared everyone else. Time to show them why Deathworlders are called Deathworlders." The battle lasted 18 hours and became the largest space engagement in recorded galactic history. Human ships used tactics that the Wraiths had never encountered, coordinated attacks that turned their numbers against them, defensive formations that made their ships nearly impossible to destroy, and boarding actions that brought the fight to close quarters where human superiority was overwhelming. But the most shocking moment came when Admiral Ross received word that Wraith reinforcements were approaching and chose to attack them instead of retreating to safety. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "the new Wraith force has twice as many ships as we do." "Then we better hit them before they get organized," Karen replied. The sight of human ships charging toward a superior enemy force while broadcasting challenges and battle cries shattered the last of Wraith confidence. For 2 centuries, they had built their empire on the fear of species that valued their own lives too much to fight desperately. Humans fought like their lives meant nothing compared to protecting others. When the battle ended, the Wraith Empire had lost over 2/3 of its total fleet. War leader Keshtar himself was captured when Captain Reason's Marines boarded his flagship and dragged him from his command throne. The Confederation world celebrated for days. The aliens were also dealing with a new reality. They had been saved by beings who were everything they had feared Deathworlders would be: violent, dangerous, and absolutely unstoppable in battle. Dr. Susan Blake, now director of the Interspecies Communication Institute, was working late in her office when she received a message that made her smile. It was from a Havani child on one of the outer colonies that the humans had saved from Wraith attack. "Dear human protectors," the message read, "thank you for keeping the monsters away. My family says you are monsters too, but you are good monsters who fight bad monsters. Please keep being monsters for us." Susan laughed and shared the message with her staff. In trying to explain why humans were different, a child had captured the truth better than all their scientific studies and diplomatic reports. The humans were monsters. But they were monsters who had chosen to use their monstrous abilities to protect those who could not protect themselves. As the years passed, the relationship between humans and the peaceful species of the Confederation grew stronger. Human military academies began accepting alien students, while human children learned alien languages and customs. Slowly, the galaxy was learning that the most dangerous species in known space could also be the most reliable guardians of peace. Earth children looked up at the stars and dreamed of adventure among distant worlds. They had no idea that across the galaxy, alien children went to sleep safely in their beds because human ships patrolled the darkness, watching for threats that would never come. The Deathworlders had looked to the stars, seeking their place in the universe. They found it not as conquerors or explorers, but as the guardians of creatures too gentle to guard themselves. And for the first time in galactic history, being different was exactly what the universe needed.